Hello, everyone. We're here today to present a proposal in regards to the rise in homelessness in the city of San Bernardino. We want to welcome everyone and thank you for being here today. This proposal is being made in order to inform people about the rise in homelessness in the area. My name is DeBron Hewell, and I've grown up most of my life in the San Bernardino County. And growing up, I've spent time and resided in some of the harshest areas in the county, San Bernardino included. I've seen the effects and causes of homelessness, and I've seen the outcry go unanswered for those in need and those that need help. So that's what compelled us emotionally to make our proposal topic homelessness in the area of San Bernardino. This is our introduction page, and it shows a few encampments in the city of San Bernardino being taken up by officers. And the one on the bottom left, you can see that the living conditions of some of the homeless in the local area. Did you know that in the past 4 years, there's been a significant rise in the documented homeless in San Bernardino? But what about the undocumented homeless? There's many people that are undocumented in the city of San Bernardino, but they've felt less fortunate and they've sprung into encampments to seek shelter, and these things are being taken away. This is a closer picture of that first image that I showed in the first slide. You can see an officer there under the bridge there looking for people who may be, seeking shelter underneath a bridge in the city of San Bernardino. This picture shows another encampment being removed by the sheriff of San Bernardino, or the sheriff of San Bernardino County. And these are the living conditions of these people, and this is their home. It's pretty sad that people don't have the help to find shelter. Why we chose this topic? In the last 10 years, there's been a significant rise in homelessness in the San Bernardino area. This graph shows a chart from the year 2013 to our current year we're in now, and you can see the influx in homelessness in the San Bernardino County. It's a big deal. The pandemic has had a drastic impact on homelessness in the San Bernardino area as well. From the year 2020 thereon, there's been a significant spike in the homeless in the San Bernardino County. This is an issue that's trending upward, not only in the city of San Bernardino, but a growing issue in our neighboring communities. And that's why this problem needs to be addressed. Homelessness is ultimately one of the biggest problems in our society as a whole. And we need to definitely be aware, because this could be a member of our families or even one of us. I'm going to show a video in regards to the rise of homelessness in the San Bernardino area.
Safety concerns are growing in San Bernardino over city facilities and public parks being taken over by homeless encampments. The city says they can't do anything about it. NBC4's Christian Cazares covers the Inland Empire for us. He is live outside San Bernardino City Hall. And Christian, what exactly is holding back the cleanup here?
Well, I can tell you, we talked to a spokesperson with the city of San Bernardino today, and they say a lawsuit against the city is basically keeping their hands tied. They tell me that this is basically a big problem, an ongoing problem that is also forcing a lot of families away.
It's the way that it looks that's intimidating.
Michael Lynch drove out from Moreno Valley to San Bernardino today, looking for a pickleball court, but what he found was dozens of homeless tents at Paris Hill Park.
We were going to go for a walk before we started playing, but there were tents up on the walking tracks up the side there, and we decided not to go up there just for our own safety.
We drove around the park along Highland Avenue in Valencia and spotted tent after tent on the lawn just steps away from the park's playground.
These people are lost and hurting.
We are 100% as frustrated as our residents are.
Jeff Cross with the city of San Bernardino says the homeless problem began a while back and was quickly addressed.
We declared a homeless state of emergency back about a year and a half ago. And one of the things were taking back our parks. And so we put fencing. We cleared them out, and the parks were wonderful.
Cross says after the cleanup, the city was sued by the ACLU back in August,
stating that we're not following procedures in noticing when we're going to do a cleanup and storing people's belongings and things like that when it came to a cleanup. And a judge issued an injunction against the city of San Bernardino, which is preventing us from doing any more cleanups until the case is resolved.
Public parks like Paris Hill Park, which also has a community pool, has seen a decline in visitors according to city officials. They blame the homeless encampments in the area and say a series of complaints about public threats and property damage have been made. According to the ACLU's website, they represent 3 unhoused people with disabilities and a grassroots organization. They say people do not lose their constitutional rights just because they're unhoused. This court ruling will ensure that unhoused members of our community will not have their property legally confiscated and destroyed. As for Lynch, he decided to stay and enjoy the park facilities while keeping a close watch on his surroundings.
You come in and you don't know what you're going to encounter.
And the city spokesperson tells me they have spent almost $30 million just within the last year on homeless services, but it's not enough. He says he hopes the city can come to some sort of resolution soon so they can start the cleanup process at the local parks and open it up for the public. We're live in San Bernardino. Christian Cáceres, NBC4 News. All right, Christian, thank you.
All right, so you guys can see that this is a big community.
The concerns are growing.
And it's something that's been growing continuously in our communities. To continue on, why we chose this topic, I'll add a few more bullet points. You guys can see here in this photo here on the right that they have more officers and officials here and dump trucks cleaning out these encampments and taking away these less fortunate people's home. Circumstances have caused an influx of less fortunate people to migrate to the streets and the public parks. And this is, their last resort. The homelessness in the area has grown so tremendously and raised concerns amongst the local residents. And now it's becoming a bigger issue. Also, San Bernardino has begun removing encampments in the city, leaving most with no place to go. So this is a problem that needs to be addressed. This next slide is a article in which I found of a fatal stabbing that unfortunately took place at the Paris Hill Park days after they took away these encampments. And we have a remaining issue. These people still remain with no place to go. And they fall into certain things like drugs, and there's different diseases and things that they encounter as a result of not having shelter. And these people have nowhere to run. So thank you guys for hearing me, and we're going to move on to the next presenter, which would be Anthony.
Hello, my name is Anthony Jimenez, and today I'm going to be talking about the history of homelessness in San Bernardino. The history of homelessness dilemma in San Bernardino has stemmed from multiple factors over the past few decades. The deindustrialization of San Bernardino plays a big part in this problem. The closure of factories and local manufacturing caused many people to suddenly lose their jobs, and it caused a spike in homelessness to occur. Another thing that plays part in this issue is the state of the economy has been in the last few years. The rising cost of daily necessities like groceries can affect every family, and some even more severely than others. Here on the slide, I have a graph of the cost of food over the last 2 years. The graph shows a great increase over the last 2 years since January of 2022 and July 2025. This shows that it has become increasingly difficult for families to afford food. It says, in addition, the housing market has gotten out of hand in the past few years and has become a lot harder for individuals and families to afford housing. Also on this same slide, I have a graph of the affordability gap of home buyers. Home buyers today need to earn about 43% more than average to afford a typical home. This graph shows the data from the last 2 decades, showing that it has almost doubled the qualifying income you need to afford a house. Also, the financial state of San Bernardino is a key part to this as well. This can lead to problems of lack of resources that can help these people and their families so they don't fall further into financial crisis. The current state of the problem has not changed for the better in the recent years. The number of homeless individuals has risen and will continue to rise. One reason is it's so hard to get people off the streets is the overcrowding of shelters in the surrounding area because there aren't enough spaces to fill all the families. This leaves families with little to no options, so they resort to sleeping in their cars or living in encampments scattered throughout the city. On this slide, there is a picture of Parasol Park. I currently have been living here for the last 5 years. It is pretty bad. Let's see. I personally have lived in San Bernardino here in the last 5 years. Park contains about a dozen encampments and it's only gotten worse. And it's not just a park, it's the surrounding areas as well. It contains a huge population of homeless people that take up shelter in abandoned buildings or even make home in the empty parking lots nearby. The city has tried to take action against these encampments at the park, but as a result, they have made the problem slightly worse due to an impending lawsuit against the city because they violated the rights of the people living in the encampments. And they cannot proceed with the cleanup. Another problem that the city faces is the lack of resources to help these individuals, like lack of mental health, and physical health care causes major issues. The health of these individuals can contribute to them not being able to work or even keeping a steady job. If the problem continues, it could lead to all sorts of repercussions. One example would be the rising crime rate throughout the city. The San Bernardino Police Department put out a crime report so far in the year 2025. On this chart, it shows all the crimes committed from January to May of this year. 2,279 of these crimes are property crimes. Property crimes consist of property theft or property damage, along those lines. So, homeless people get desperate to commit these crimes because they have no other choice. I have first-hand experience with this. I worked as a loss prevention employee at a local grocery store in my area. And even to this day, there's still people going into that store on a daily basis, trying to steal food or alcohol. On the same slide, I have a map of the surrounding area of Parasol Park, and is in the deep red, which indicates that this is a high crime rate area. The problem of homelessness has stricken San Bernardino for a very long time, and we need to find some way to lessen the problem the city is facing.
And thanks for that, Anthony. Hi, my name is Chris Singletary, and so the three main topics that we got our problem of solving homelessness in San Bernardino was affordable housing, the social services improvements, and the homeless prevention programs. So affordable housing, it's one of the greatest problems today that people face. You know, homeless people are homeless simply because they can't afford the means to provide to stay in a house here in California, you know. And one way we can help that out is by affordable housing. This could, include building new low-income apartments for people to stay. We can convert any unused or abandoned buildings into housing units. And in San Bernardino, I know there are multiple buildings that are unoccupied right now that we could simply flip like that into places for the homeless, or even make it another homeless shelter. And we can also provide rental assistance, such as small pension funds, or even partnering with a nonprofit foundation to help out, give money and donate to those in need. Affordable housing provides people with a safe and steady place to live, which can improve their health, lower their stress, and help them focus on finding a job. Or they can continue going to school to get that career that they want that can ultimately put them in a great position financially. However, creating new housing isn't always easy because construction can take a long time and be very expensive. Communities sometimes push back against these new housing projects and programs that offer housing assistance because they need constant funding from the governments, which again, they already understand will put more money on their taxes, and no one wants to pay the taxes like that. So if the whole community can come together and pitch in, I think we could significantly lower the homelessness percentage in the city of San Bernardino, or even just head in that right direction. So the second main topic we tackled was the social services improvements, and this includes mental health care, substance abuse programs, job training, and healthcare services. Substance abuse programs, they can really help the homeless because, oftentimes in San Bernardino, you'll see someone walking down the street and you'll see that they're not completely there in the head mentally sometimes. So if we can find a way to get them some help and some assistance and hope and get them back to 100%, then that will ultimately get their mindset heading in the back direction of getting back on their feet. These social services help address the underlying issue that often leads to homelessness, such as addiction, unemployment, or mental health challenges. They also help individuals gain more independence and reduce reliance on emergency shelters. However, this approach does require trained staff because with the different amount of people that you may see, you want to make sure you have the right people handling certain situations. And so it also is going to need constant funding from wherever we choose to pull from. It's going to require coordination between various agencies and even many programs that people could partner with. Some people may also be hesitant to use these programs and to budget constraints because they can limit how many people receive help. And so the last main topic that we wanted to tackle under the solutions that are already in place was these homelessness prevention programs. These programs can include rental assistance, eviction prevention, financial education, and support for families in crisis. Prevention is often more cost effective than helping people after they become homeless. It keeps families together, it reduces the demand on shelters, and it creates long-term stability. However, prevention programs must carefully identify those in need and rely on steady funding and community cooperation, which can be challenging to maintain. So in all of that, we had a video that we had wanted to share with the class real quick.
See them everywhere. Tent cities popping up as city and county leaders grapple with solving the homelessness crisis. As Eyewitness News reporter Leticia Juarez explains, a new study finds most people in LA County expect things to get even worse.
Courtney Lee's wagon holds not only her possessions, but that of her mother and 7-year-old son. Lee and her family have been homeless on the streets of San Bernardino going on 3 years after she left a domestic abuse situation.
I have no problem with going to work. I have no problem with being med compliant. I just needed assistance with housing.
Lee said despite holding down a job working 60 hours in a warehouse, she still was unable to afford rent. The choices and resources she says was offered left her with an impossible choice.
Us being a multi-generational family, we do not qualify for assistance together. The only options they're giving us is to completely separate the family.
California's escalating homeless crisis has created more solutions, but also more restrictions on the unhoused. A study conducted by the Thomas and Dorothy Levy Center for the Study of Los Angeles at Loyola Marymount University shows most LA County residents see the problem worsening.
It's just become something that has been much more invisible.
The study found a majority of those surveyed supported more short-term housing as opposed to long-term, and backed clearing out encampments without regard to available shelter beds.
There's consensus that Angelenos think short-term housing is the better use of existing funds. And there's also a sense that there's less patience with the encampment.
While the survey concludes LA County residents have grown impatient for a solution to homelessness, for those like Lee who want off the streets, wading through the often confusing tide of resources and restrictions is a daily test in patience.
I understand if people have no compassion for me as a 34-year-old woman and my mother as a 64-year-old. But my son deserves better. It isn't his fault that I had to come back. And it makes you feel like a failure because everyone just wants to make sure their children are safe.
For now, Lee, who ran out of hotel vouchers allotted to her for the year, will find a place to set up a tent for the night.
And so after watching that video, it really touched the heart of me and my group. We really wanted to hone in and make this project as personal as we could take it. So for our original solution, we had came up with community empowerment centers. And so these centers would provide various support services for people who are facing or at the risk of becoming homeless. Mental health services and educational resources to give people the knowledge to prevent them from falling further down into financial crisis would be provided. The purpose of a solution center would be to provide one with a place where they themselves and their families could go to receive assistance, no matter if it's health assistance, medical assistance, or financial assistance, or sometimes in some cases when you have a large family, educational assistance. So in order to do this, we figured that the budget that we would come up with would cover the property acquisition or the leasing of the property. It would also cover the wages of the staff and development of the program itself and the operational costs of what it would take to have a staff on payroll and to ultimately keep this center up and running for many years to come. So the way that these centers would be implicated is by finding suitable locations for these centers and partnering up with organizations like local nonprofit agencies, government agencies, and local businesses. And through those, we would secure funds for that. That way we could get this idea really up and running. These centers would hire professional people with experience in the social work field and in the healthcare field, and also in education to give people the most extensive support they require. So all in all, to wrap it up, homelessness is a real problem in San Bernardino, and it affects people and families every day who can't live here or can't afford the cost of living in California. So with that being said, with the information shared to you today between me and my peers, we just wanted to thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and have a good one. Thanks.